Okay. So it's Friday the 23rd of April, and over the next few minutes you'll be watching interviews between all the politicians standing for the opportunity to become elected to become a Member of Parliament for the residents of Leicester West. So could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Peter Coley. I live in Western Park Ward. I'm leader of the Liberal Democrat group on the City Council. I've lived here for most of my life, born and brought up here in Western Park. And I'm standing for parliamentary candidates in Leicester West this time.
So let's start looking at things on a large scale. Could you briefly explain what the Robin Hood tax is, please?
It's a small transaction tax. Every time there's a financial transaction, buying or selling monies on the market, a very small percentage, something like 0.05% tax is taken off that. A very, very small amount each time, but it all adds up, and it would raise hundreds of millions of pounds on the large scale.
So would you support the introduction of such a tax?
It's something that our party said we would look at. We haven't said we would introduce it. Vince Cable said it's an interesting idea, and he may well look at it as part of an overall package.
How would you choose to use the money that could be raised through the Robin Hood tax?
Well, there's lots of different ways. I mean, we're heading through a situation where we're nearly £1 trillion in debt, so there's finance required for a huge number of things, but I don't think I'd want to presume to say exactly what you'd spend it on at the moment, but we're going to need more money for social care, for transportation, for homes. There's a whole range, and I think that decision is perhaps a little early to decide on that.
And do you know what the population of your potential constituency is in Leicester West?
It's about 98,000, I think.
And do you know what the unemployment rate was last year in Leicester West?
Not sure exactly. It's quite a lot higher than the national average. Somewhere near 40%, I think.
Okay. Do you think that people could use the internet to increase their chances of finding employment?
Yes, I mean that's quite an interesting one. So, social networking has become a lot more popular, and a lot of companies are now using internet for online applications. So clearly over the last couple of years that has been the case. I was the sort of cabinet member for the council for resources until 2007, and we put in place a mechanism where you could apply online for jobs with the council during that, and it works well. So yes, definitely.
So do you know how many people in Leicester West don't have access to the internet at home?
Well, I think the average is about 50% of people have access to the internet across the country. I know access is not as good in Leicester West as the national average, so it's probably somewhere, it's less than 50%, maybe a quarter. So I couldn't give you an exact figure.
Okay. So this leads me on to my next question. Do you know the percentage of your potential constituency that don't have any qualifications?
A lot higher than the national average. Over a third, probably a third to 40%, something like that.
Okay. And do you know how it relates to figures on a national average?
I would think it's probably twice as high at least as the national average.
So how would you seek to improve the education of people in Leicester West?
There's a whole range of things. I mean, firstly we need the schools to be improved. We've lost several schools in Leicester West over the years. So we need better education, more sixth forms, more consistent education. We're just losing Riverside School, one of the best performing schools here. But yeah, better schooling, more college places, probably internships and apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are a good way of doing it as well, I think, if companies can take people on and then you can further your education whilst you're working, because I think one of the big drawbacks is people feel that they'll need to go out and get a job to sustain themselves, and they can't necessarily afford to go into higher education. So that it's an in-between path. I think that would help.
Staying with the theme of education, would you support the application of top-up fees or tuition fees?
No, absolutely not. I think, I mean, I'll expand on that slightly. Students leave the university now. At the moment, you're paying something like £3,500 or £3,000 a term. There's plans to increase that to £7,000 a term. You leave university, massive debts before you've even started work. I think it should be free at the point of delivery. It needs to be funded, certainly, and the universities need money, but there's better ways of doing it than that, so we wouldn't support tuition fees, and in fact our party has plans in place to scrap tuition fees completely over the 6-year period.
And on to money and how you would choose to spend it in your election campaign. In the year of the last general election, a certain branch of political party in Leicester West received £22,500 in donation, above its normal average of about £2,000 per year. This year, certain groups only have £1,000 to spend on a single candidate, and that includes the £500 registration fee. What do you think is the right amount to spend on a candidate, and what is your favourite method of communicating with your constituents?
The amount, that's so difficult, depends. Just to deliver a letter across the constituency is probably about £6,000 or £8,000. I think, realistically, if you're going to actually communicate with everybody via bits of paper, probably about £10,000 is the maximum that should be spent. Certainly we spend far, far less than that. My favourite method is actually become Facebook. I wasn't a convert until fairly recently, but having set up the Facebook campaign page, we're getting an awful lot of interaction. I find that really good. It doesn't pick up people, probably the older generation, who don't like it, don't use it, and you still need to knock on doors and talk to people. But it's a good method, I think.
Do you have any roles that ensure that you have direct contact with members of your community?
Well, I'm City Councillor for Western Park Ward, so yes, I've had that role for the last 18 years. I do a newsletter. My fellow councillor do a newsletter. We've done it, it's the 21st year we've been doing it now, every sort of 6 or 8 weeks right across the ward, telling people what's going on, asking them what the problems are. It seems to work, people like it.
Do you think that age adds experience that is essential to being a Member of Parliament?
That's, again, it's quite an interesting one, because there's so many people in Parliament now who don't seem to have ever had a proper job, who doesn't seem to have any experience of what it's like to have to have a mortgage, do a job and carry on with things. I think experience and age, that they are related, so I don't think age is necessarily the key, but I think experience of life generally is probably the important part of it. Not somebody that's just left school and hasn't really any experience of things.
Which do you think is more essential in controlling crime? More police officers walking the streets or the use of more technology?
More police officers walking the streets it's a deterrent to a certain extent, but it gives people confidence, because I think there's a difference between the fear of crime and actual crime. A lot of people are scared of the idea of crime, and they see a police officer walking the beat and they feel more confident, they feel as though they've been looked after. Technology's fine and in its place, but it's not going to replace officers on the beat. We do need that. You need the social interaction. They need to know what's going on.
And an off-the-wall question now. Are you a supporter of capital punishment?
No, I'm not. I can understand in a way the people that are, but there's been so many miscarriages of justice over the years that they've realised that people were put away for the wrong reasons, and they've been executed them for that. That's just terrible. I mean, I don't think it solves anything. There's states in America where they have capital punishment and the crime rate is just as high as states where they don't have capital punishment, so it's not proven that it has any effect at all. It's just barbaric.
And on to the final question. Do you think that an immigrant population can contribute towards a stable economy?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you look at this country over the last, 1,000 years, we've had immigration from everywhere, from the Danes and the Celts and the Romans. More recently, if you look at the 1960s, where the population came from Africa, they took on lots of jobs that other people didn't do. When Idi Amin kicked population out of his country, we gained doctors and nurses, all sorts of highly skilled people. Certainly, immigration, the right people coming over, is of huge benefit. Look at the doctors and nurses. So, absolutely.
Okay, so thank you very much for participating in the interview. And that's the end of it.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.